Hey guys, welcome back to Skin Anarchy. Today we're having a very fun conversation because we never get to talk about the world of professional grade skincare very much because it's usually, kind of locked into the spas and the aesthetic clinics and stuff. So we don't really get that behind the scenes look into truly professional grade products. So with me today, I have the CEO and founder of Biofore, which is this amazing brand. They're truly innovating the space of professional grade products. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Ronit Segev. Welcome, Dr. Ronit. I'm so excited to host you.
Yeah, happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. I know you have a lot of science in your background, in your educational background, and I'd love to really dive into the moment that, you decided to launch Biofore. I mean, what was that moment of frustration for you where you thought, I need to start something on my own?
So the turning point for me was when I have noticed my first signs of aging at the age of 36.
Mm,
And, it happens toward the end of my undergraduate degree in biology. In this point where all of us students are deliberating which direction to take for the master's. And for me, it became very clear. So biology for me is second career. My first career was I was a marketing manager with a degree in business administration. But since I was a kid and very young, I was very passionate about biology. I loved biology. I was always envious in the scientists that develop drugs and solution to physical problems. I always wanted to be in this place. So at the age of 32, I took myself back again to the university and signed to the first degree in biology. And when I saw my first signs of aging, I was really frustrated. This was the frustration. I wasn't willing to accept them. And
mm,
this is when I knew what I want to do further, what I want to explore. I wanted to explore skin aging, all the ingredients involved in fixing the signs of aging, all the methods, why skin ages, what are the processes inside. And I wanted to develop solutions to slow the down the signs of aging, to treat aging skin, to let us have even attractive skin at any age. And I wanted to develop solution. I knew those have to be very powerful and very targeted solutions, quick and that can deliver fast and visible results. And this kind of product should be very concentrated and cannot be, offered on stores or on the shelf. Can be shelf products. They should be offered by professionals. And
mm.
after skin analysis and understanding the skin and tailoring the product to the customer and monitoring the skin and being available in case of side effects, which we do have. We have side effects. So such kind of product cannot be picked from the shelf, at least not if you want to really get a change in the skin. And that's what and how and why I launched Biofor, a
No,
professional skincare brand that works through professionals.
that's really interesting because, you started with biology. I think that's very fascinating to me that you have this very deep-rooted understanding of the biology that goes into understanding skin, and what really is anti-aging. What does it mean to have beautiful, healthy skin? I think many times founders don't come with this understanding, so it's very, very interesting to me. What was that true foundation for you that you wanted to build the brand on? I know you mentioned the ingredients, but like what was that key foundation that you said, this is where I want to base my products off of?
I entered the market with the purpose to deliver powerful, effective solutions for skin concerns. So it's a mission, and it's not just a product line. And it began with my personal interest to treat aging skin, but I knew I'm going to serve cosmetologists and estheticians, and they treat not only signs of aging, but also acne and pigmentation and texture problems. And so dug deep in those topics because they're important as well. And they are very interesting, very fascinating. They diminish the quality of life. I was intending to learn them, study them deeply, and come up with solution for all kinds of skin concerns. And the thing is, when you want to solve a skin issue, you have to understand skin. You have to understand what went wrong. You can't start with a line. You have to start with understanding of the physiology and pathologies and the behavior of the skin and skin's processes. Anything you want to fix, if the mechanic wants to fix a car, You have to understand what went wrong, and only then can you fix the car. And if the doctor wants to deal with a kidney disease, you have to know how the kidneys function and what can be wrong. And the skin is no different. It's an organ. It's a complex, very complicated organ. And every change that you see on the outside is rooted in changes in the inside, in the behavior, in the structure, and in processes in the skin. You have to understand them. And in order for you to be able to plan a product that can change the skin, this product should be based on a deep understanding of biology. And not just the product, but the way of delivering the product and treated with the product. This have to be based on knowledge in the biology of the skin. That's why Bioflow didn't start with the usual checklist: day cream, night cream, serum, lotion, mask, and so on.
Yeah.
This wasn't the vision. The goal was to create targeted solution that can fix skin concern, and they can come in any form. They can come as a cream or as the serum, whatever with the carrier or the best vehicle to deliver the actives inside the skin and change it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, and I agree with everything you said. I think that because we know that the skin is an organ, we understand that it's a very dynamic organ, and that is something that, oftentimes we don't see that addressed in a lot of skincare brands. That's the truth. A lot of times people are not approaching it from this understanding that, you have to understand how the skin turns over, what's going on to make it. People say, "Oh, I want glowing skin." Well, what does that mean? In a scientific way. What does glowing skin mean? So I think it's very relevant what you pointed out here, and I want to actually do some myth busting, if you don't mind. There's a lot of misinformation. And I think also there's this widespread belief that serums are the most active product, right? That you can have in a skincare line, more so than things like creams and then other things. So what is the actual truth about this? I mean, is that true? Is that false? How does that work?
Yes, I come across this myth a lot, not
Yeah.
only with the end user, but even with many, many professionals. It's very common. So I think it may come from this incorrect information that they get in their initial training, the cosmeticians. So yeah, but when I discuss with them, with the professionals, and we go deep in their deep beliefs about serums, and we break it down and see one by one all the thoughts that they adapted without checking, and all the other people thought that they believed to without asking themselves, is this logic? Can this be true? So when we look at it, we see the simple truth that it's far from the compelling beliefs that they have. So let's just do the process. So I ask cosmeticians, what's the difference between a cream and a serum? And I
Yeah.
get several answers. They tell me serums are more active, serums are more concentrated, serum contains smaller molecules, serums help bigger molecules to penetrate the skin. And so we try to break it down one by one. I ask them who decides which ingredient and in what concentration to put in a serum. So the answer, the manufacturer, correct? And if
Right.
I, the manufacturer, decide to make a cream with 3% matrixyl, which is a biomimetic peptide, and also a serum with 3% matrixyl. Those are the only active ingredients, just matrixyl in the
Yeah.
serum and in the cream. So would the serum with matrixyl be more active than the cream? Would it be more concentrated than the cream? Would the matrixyl molecule be smaller because it's in the serum? So it's not. And we have to remember creams, serums, gels, those are carrier. They're meant to carry active ingredient inside the skin. If I would plan a serum with, let's say, 5% and 3% niacinamide, those green tea and niacinamide are meant to kind of leave the serum and enter the skin. Not all the other 40 ingredients, the emollients and emulsifiers and the perfume and humectants and so on, just
Yeah.
the active ingredients. The same way, if I would plan a cream with this niacinamide and green tea, it wouldn't be less effective. Those are the same actives. The manufacturer can choose any ingredients and put them in cream, and in the serum as well, and they will be active as well. It's not
Right.
that the serum will be more active. And another thing, it's not that the serum can help big molecules penetrate the skin. If the molecule is big, too big and it cannot inherently penetrate the skin, it will penetrate the skin because it's in a serum. The serum doesn't make tiny holes in the skin or ingredient that push the big molecules with little tiny ropes into the skin. There's no such ingredients, and even if there were, couldn't we put them in a cream?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
actually, the only argument we cannot argue with is that the serum is more liquid and the cream is more creamy. It's the consistency is it's thicker, less
Right. Right.
liquid.
No,
Yeah,
that's really interesting because I think that's something that no one really discusses, right? Is this idea of like we're really buying whatever texture we prefer, in the product. It's not really about exactly what you said. It's not about really is it more active or not. And I think a lot of times users don't, I mean, consumers, everybody doesn't really associate this because in our minds we think, okay, the serum goes on first. You know what I mean? So it's like they think, oh, it goes
yeah,
on first, so it must be the most active. And it's not true. You're right. It really depends on what's in the serum. So, with that, I wanted to congratulate you. You just won the Gold Award for a skin renewal serum
mhm.
that Biopore has. Congratulations on that. When is the, so let's really debunk this. So, like, when is the real right time to incorporate serums into our skincare routine?
Yeah. Actually, this year we won 3 golden awards. One of
Oh,
them,
wow.
as you said, yeah. One of them is for a serum called Pro Lift to rejuvenate the skin. And for your question, actually, you can triple your question because Biovore has 3 serums, not just one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first question that the cosmetologist or cosmeticians ask me after we finish debunking the serum myth. So why do you have C serum? They ask me. We have serum vitamin C. So the answer is for your question, you introduce a serum whenever the skin needs an ingredient or one ingredient or more, and this ingredient is included in a serum. So let's take, for example, vitamin C. When do we think the skin needs vitamin C? With the professionals. Whenever, for example, this is a smoker skin, or the skin is exposed to free radicals, or to stress, or whenever this is dehydrated skin, or whenever we want to boost collagen production, all of those treatment goals indicate that we can give vitamin C to improve the skin. So yeah, we could give vitamin C cream as well, and it would do the same job, by the way. But
Yeah.
many times the client already have moisturizer. A lot of them have. And it doesn't sound so natural for a client to apply a cream on top of a cream.
Yeah.
It sounds strange, but when it's a serum, it sounds natural. Everybody loves serum. The cosmetician, the client, everybody loves the serum, and it's very natural to apply a serum beneath the cream. So we didn't just sell another product, or we didn't just give automatically serum because every woman need a serum. We gave the solution. We gave an ingredient that the skin needed based on skin analysis and understanding the needs of the skin. For
Yeah.
us, it's a smart recommendation. It's not just a consistency.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think this idea of like ingredient like synergy, right? Because that's where I think a lot of people get confused is that, we are so tied to this ritual of skincare. People say, I need to do these steps and this routine, otherwise I'm not going to
Mhm,
get the benefits. And I've said this
mhm,
before on the podcast where I say I like to think of it like we have skin cells like in a petri dish, and whatever you're putting on top of that is the treatment, right, for those cells. So it's just like that. And it's the same understanding I think that consumers need to have is that your cells are being exposed no matter what, whether it's a serum, a cream, a toner, you're getting exposed to whatever active is there. And it's up to you to decide what am I going to pair, together in terms of ingredients. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in that whole conversation, right? It's like
mhm,
we are so tied to this cultural understanding of this is how skincare routines are supposed to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's not the
mhm.
case. Yeah, so I want to talk about this idea of, ingredients, infusion, and understanding like, what ingredients are safe to use through things like microneedling, microneedling and ultrasound. Let's talk about that a little bit. Ingredient infusion, if you could
Yeah,
educate us. Yeah.
so this idea, as we all know, really sparks the imagination of skin therapists and clinicians, infusing of ingredients. So basically, we're speaking about treatment when we take cocktails or ampoules and infuse the ingredients via electroporation and ultrasound and maybe other device. And this treatment is performed once in a month or once in 3 months. The manufacturers that produce these cocktails, they say those are very concentrated cocktails of vitamins and peptides and minerals. And so, and many clinicians, many cosmeticians are very fascinated. They view them like the fountain of youth, the magical potion that we give to the skin, and
Yeah.
it wakes up and wakes up to life. I always looked at these kind of treatments, and I didn't understand. As I come from science, I try to understand the clinical logic behind every treatment, and I
Right.
didn't find one. I did not find. And let me share with you the why.
Yeah.
So first, I want to remind something that maybe many clinicians do. You probably know it, but most of the ingredients inside this cocktail have therapeutic windows. This is the range of concentration within the ingredient works. Below that, we won't get the benefit. And above this therapeutic window, we won't get better results. We won't. Even in some cases, if we exceed the upper limit of the therapeutic window, we will get side effects. And even in peptides, for example, they have very narrow therapeutic window. If we exceed it, we get the opposite effect. So it's not the more the better. We should understand with active ingredients, it's not the more the better. It's the exact concentration that was established. So this is for the claim that the injections or the cocktails are very concentrated, and maybe we now that we see them, we can deal with them. So many therapists look at the skin like they think the skin acts like a camel. This camel that can drink a lot of water, and in the desert, it can
Yeah.
manage without water 2 months, 3 months. So only camels do that. Our skin doesn't function like this. We don't have in the skin tiny storage unit with tiny storage guys that get all those vitamins and keep them and then slowly releases them every day according to the skin's needs. It doesn't happen like that. The skin doesn't work in intensive loading. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that. The skin, like the body, needs every day, over the day, the actives that are essential for healthy functioning. So that's the first thing. And another thing that I want to pull and take it to the daylight and look at it in the eye, the mistake that we professionals do, between methods and goals, or means and goals. So we should have, every one of us professionals should have therapeutic goals. Therapeutic goals are, for example, even toned skin, skin without acne, cleared of pigmentation, firmer skin. Okay, we define therapeutic goals in means like of how the skin looks after the process. So I asked the professionals, is infusing ingredients, is it a therapeutic goal?
Yeah.
Is it a therapeutic goal? Is it kind of appearance? Or maybe it's a method?
Right.
So they
Right.
give it a little thought, and they have to realize it's not a goal, it's a method. It surprises many of them, by the way.
Yeah.
So they see it's not, as they see that it's not a goal but a method, we must ask, okay, so what's the goal? And here I can hear several goals like firmer skin and tighter skin and skin without pores or lesser pores or less pigmentation. So I urge them to take every such goal and ask themselves about each one of them 3 questions. Question one, let's take firming, for example, as the goal.
Right.
Question one, which ingredients can firm the skin in the cocktail. They don't always know what's inside the cocktail. Many times they don't know. So let's think which ingredient can firm the skin. So they tell me vitamin A and vitamin C and biomimetic peptides. Okay. Question 2. Are they capable of penetrating the skin with simple application, daily application? So we have to admit that yes, they can penetrate the skin. And question 3. Do you think really that once in a month or once in 3 months, if you apply these ingredients, can it firm the skin? And
Yeah.
I will remind you, there is no slow release and there's no meaning of high concentration. Could it happen? So I strongly recommend every clinician to take all of the therapeutic goals that they expect to get from these infusions and honestly and strictly and very precisely ask themselves all of those questions. And I promise that you will get very surprising answers.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I love
yeah.
that. I love that you said that. That is brilliant, actually, because, this is something that nobody asks about skin. Nobody talks about this with the skin. And it's very confusing to me, right? As well, because it's exactly what you said. When you're exposing your body, no matter what organ it is, to an extreme amount of something, right? Whatever you're dealing with, whether it's a pharmaceutical, even vitamins, right? Something like that, you will put it
Mhm.
into shock. It will go into shock state. Like the cells will react very aggressively to that. So it's very, very true what you're saying in that you have to understand how do cells respond. Does it matter in the overall goal that you have? And then also like just the physiology of what's going to happen later. A lot of these treatments, like you said, people go for like once a month, right? They'll go to their esthetician, they'll go
Mhm.
to wherever they go, dermatologist, and say, I want this once a month treatment. But then nobody's asking what happens after for the next 29 days, what's going on with your skin. Are
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are you still kind of chasing that goal? Are you still meeting your goal at the end of the day? You're probably not, because after you get that one thing done, you're not taking care of your skin, or you're not, what I mean, doing the everyday routine that you should be doing to maintain. And this is a very big topic, actually. It applies to everybody across the board, not just in the professional world, but I think even the brands that are more towards the non-professional side, you have to ask yourself that, it's like, what are you really selling to people at the end of the day? Are you selling a promise, like a marketing gimmick, or is it really how the skin works? So I love that. I really love that you brought that up.
I want
Yeah.
to add another thing. All the information that we have on ingredients is gathered from studies that were conducted with applying the ingredients, daily application, sometimes twice a day, and not injecting them. So what do you think? And of course, we got the outcomes from applying the ingredients, not from injecting. So why did you think it should work?
Right.
On what basis?
Right, exactly. That's very true. Yeah, like nobody talks about that. And this is actually very true, in terms of medicine and anything that has to do with the human body, like the modality through which you deliver ingredients, deliver drugs is the most important, I think. And it's really because your body the most advanced machine that we know of, right? So it's going to adapt. It has to go through its normal process to adapt, and we completely bypass that by doing things that are kind of, I think, contradictory to normal physiology, And so it really makes you wonder, with all of the treatments that are out there and all of the things that we as consumers are every day going for and opting in for, do we
Mhm.
understand what this is going to do? Like right now, I'll give you an example that's really perplexing for me. I'm seeing this huge buzz, right now in the PDRN, skincare, and all of this stuff people are talking about. But then it's exactly what you said. You have trials people have done with injecting it. You have trials people have done with topical, but then we're not using it like that as consumers. We're using it in a totally different way. So it's really interesting that the world of beauty and skin health, like the data doesn't really often match the modality through which it's being practiced, that using that same ingredient or that same treatment. It's very true. It's across the board. So yeah, very fascinating. I want to actually ask you, how do you define what an active skincare product is? What does that mean scientifically when somebody says this is active skincare?
first, yeah, I rely only on scientific validation, deciding on an ingredient. I don't go with buzzwords or trends of kind of the articles that follow the internet. Because we need to remember the skin is an organ. When we want to treat an organ, this is science, and we have to collect the science. Now you're asking, how do you decide what's your science? So, when I check clinical studies papers, I always check who's behind it. Whether one of the authors work for this ingredients company, whether it is funded by a cosmetics company, any kind of conflict of interest. This is a term, as you know, conflict of interest, and any paper have to claim if there is a conflict of interest. So I try to rely only on papers and clinical studies that are objective, and this is how I assess ingredients. But having said that, the field of active ingredients is evolving super fast. I get dozens of emails every week about new ingredients,
Yeah.
and I read them. And I get with every new ingredients, I get this dossier. It's a pack of information with the lab tests and the internal studies that these manufacturers have done about his new ingredients. And I read them and I try to understand the clinical logic behind the mechanism they claim. And some of them sound interesting. I apply my experience. Of course, I take all of it with a grain of salt. This is not so objective. But not every ingredient is glycolic acid or Q10 or Centella asiatica. Not every ingredient will get a university grade study. Most
Yeah.
of them, most of the new one won't get. So I really try to understand this and ask myself whether I see here a potential. And whenever I do see a potential, based on my experience, I ask them to get a sample and I make a test cream or test serum. It's the same. We
Yeah.
spoke about that. And I give to my test groups. I have my test groups that experience those ingredients and give me feedbacks, and I'm trying to understand what we're dealing with and whether this is really a potential that we can move forward with.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. It's very fascinating that you said that because we never get to see much about the ingredients, like, the new and emerging ones till they're already out in the market, unfortunately. So I think it's very important to do that sifting through of like understanding how do ingredients really work because yeah, it's not like academia, right? Where we're testing like cancer drugs or something and you have so many papers and so much data. It's often very lacking. So I think yeah, it's very interesting that you're doing your own kind of testing of these ingredients and figuring out does this actually work, in actual use. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see for like, because Biofor, I love your products, by the way. I never got to say this, so far. I really love them. And I think that
Yeah.
it shows how much, precision you've taken with picking what is offered in the line. And I think that's very unique. In today's world and the way that skincare is evolving, what I'm seeing every day is more brands are popping up and it's the same thing over and over and over. You know what I mean? Like it's the same stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's really focusing on exactly what we've discussed here, but this idea of precision skincare, where they're really figuring out this is what I need. This is how my skin will respond. This is what I expect to happen. No one's doing that. And so, what is your viewpoint about the skincare industry? I mean, where do you see the future of skincare headed?
Well, we have some trends and shifts in the market. One of them, the key evolution we will have to embrace the rise of the lifespan,
Mm,
the life expectancy, the lifespan. And when we speak wellness, we say health span. Health span is the years that we live in good health. And I think we in the cosmetics industry should embrace the term beauty span. That's a new one. You won't find it in Google.
I love
So
that.
beauty,
Yeah.
yeah. So beauty span is how long our skin can be healthy and cared for and vibrant. And we have to think about the older skin because this is an issue. And beyond the 50s and the 50s and the 60s, we should care for the more aging skin, like the 17 and 80s, which they have very unique characteristics this skin have, not the usual menopausal skin of the 50s and the 60s. We have to find the ways, the treatments, the products that can be suited to this kind of skin.
Mhm.
So this is one good way to go with. And another thing which is quite related is the field of senescent cells. I'm sure you've heard on that
Oh,
this
yes.
term,
Yeah.
senescent cells or zombie cells. So they're all over the body, not just in our face, and they age the body. They linger. They are dysfunctional cells that linger in the body and accelerate the process of aging. And there are very promising studies that target those cells or their byproducts in order to slow down the aging from the inside out. So that's a fascinating topic that's in development. Also, we see a progress in carrying delivery systems of many kinds. One of them is microcapsules that can not only protect ingredients or stabilize them or prevent irritation, it happens, but also to deliver more of these ingredients in the skin. So it goes deeper, but also it utilizes most of the ingredients. So it allows us to put a lower concentration and still get results. That's very important, especially because this time we have a very strict regulation about ingredients. And another fascinating thing is genetic-based skincare. And with the test, you get the result, you get your skin genetic map. So they test genes that are related to skin's behavior and appearance. And I can share with you that Biopore is building a AI-powered tool to help the end user as well as the cosmeticians. So at the end user part, they can upload very clear photos and add some details, and they will have a general recommendation to treat their skin, and also it will refer them to the nearest cosmetician according to their location.
Wow, that's really fascinating. I love that. I've been
Yeah.
watching AI and how much it's transforming, the world of especially like longevity and stuff. That's very, very novel for you to do this. I think that
Mhm.
we need this kind of thing because you're absolutely right in everything you said. I've been, also following along, and genetics is the future. If we can figure out like genetics, epigenetics, all of these like, blueprints that define how our skin ages and also how to kind of tailor, and again that precision medicine component, this is going to be completely game changing. Very
Yeah,
cool.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Wow. Well, I'm
Mhm.
very excited. I love Biopore, and I think what you're doing is so, so wonderful for the industry, and you're really leading with science, and I think that we don't see enough of that, and I think for anyone listening out there, whether you're consumers or you're professionals in the skin health space, I think it's very important to ask yourself these questions of where does the science make sense? Where does it lead you in your understanding, in your practice? And I think it's something really valid. Everything we've discussed here is something to think about. So thank you so much, Dr. Ronit. This has been so wonderful to host you and to learn from you. It's been wonderful.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.